Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode on Bukkit server tutorials. This video we're going to be covering PermissionsEx again, part 2. We're essentially going to be covering two things. One, how to use negative permission nodes and when you should use them. And secondly, I'm going to give you a list of permission nodes that you probably want to have assigned to your respective groups. These permission nodes are only going to be covering plugins that we already have installed. I'm going to go through what each permission node does, and as we add more plugins over the course of the tutorials, we will be adding more permission nodes also. But let's go ahead and start the server up. Should start straight up. There you go. And let us open up our permissions folder, or permissions file, I should say. Okay, now there's several this has changed quite a lot since you saw it last, and I have added these permission nodes in already just to save time for the tutorial. I've also, for the purpose of this tutorial, added another group. When we finished this video, we had guests, we had moderators, and we had admins. Now I've added a new group called user, which is going to be our primary group. Most people are going to be in this group once they've applied to be part of the server. So I'm going to launch the jump on the game here as well, so I can show you some of these permission nodes. Now, as far as the guest is concerned, the guest class or the guest group, they're not really going to need that many permission nodes, and I think that there's 4 permission nodes off the top of my head that you really want to give them, and those permission nodes are, as you can see here, essentials.spawn. This allows them to use the /spawn command. It's pretty, you know, they do need that. Essentials.help, which allows them to use /help. Essentials.list. This allows them to type /list and see who's on the server. And essentials.rules, which again allows them to type /rules, and they can see the respective rules on the server. And that is pretty much all you're going to want to give your guests. There may be 1 or 2 more depending what plugins you're using in the future, but for right now, with the current plugin setup that we have, that's all I'm going to give them. Now, most of these permissions apply to your middle groups, really. Your user group will have quite a few, as will your moderator group. The admin group has relatively few, and I'm going to explain why that is a little bit later. But if we move on to the user group, the permissions that I'm deciding to give them are as follows. So you've got essentials.afk, and let me jump into the server here so that we can show you. Okay, so AFK, actually let me put myself into the user group. So for those of you that aren't aware, I'll go over the command again to change a group, and it's simply pex user, then their username, phunkeymonkeh in this case, group set, and whatever group you want to set them to. So I want to become a user, so there you go. I'm going to deop myself as well for the purpose of this tutorial. There you go. So if I type something, there you go, we're a user. Just really like that. Okay, so the first permission node that we've given them is AFK, essentials.afk, and this simply allows them to type /AFK, and it tells everybody on the server that they are now away from keyboard. There's no real purpose to it other than to let people know that you're not available to talk on the server, and that's basically it. And when the player comes back, they simply type in /AFK again, or actually I think if they move, yeah, once you move it says automatically you're no longer AFK. So that's just an announcement for people to let others know that they're going to be away for a little bit. Pretty straightforward. Now, we move on to 2 permission nodes now, which are essentials.kit.tools and essentials.kit. Now, essentials.kit.tools and essentials.kit. Now, in order for people to be able to use the /kit command, let me show you real quick. They need that permission node, essentials.kit. And if they were to type in just /kit, you will see it'll show them a list of toolkits that are available to them. Now, we only have one, which is kit tools. And they need to have not only the essentials.kit permission node, but also the permission node for the name of the kit that you have. So these toolkits are defined within your essentials config YML folder. Right now you can see we've got two toolkits set up. We've got tools and we've got funky, which is a wool kit I think we did a few episodes back. On the permissions file, they need a node that matches the kit name. So not only, as I say, do they need essentials.kit, but they need essentials.kit.whatever you called your kit. So we have tools at the moment, which means that if we were to type in /kit, we've got kit tools, and I can use that kit and I get the subsequent items. Now I just need to change my group real quick. Don't worry about this, guys. Group set user. There you go. If we wanted to give them access to the funky kit, all we'd need to do is simply add a node, which is essentials.kit.funky. We can save. We can do a permissions reload, pex reload. And now when we type in /kit, we've got two kits available. We've got tools and we've got funky. And so if I do kit funky, we get our wool as we defined in our essentials config. If people don't have the permission nodes for the kit that they're trying to access, like I'll just remove the funky permission node now. If I were to try and get that same kit again, it says error, you need the essentials.kit.funky permission to use the kit. So just bear that in mind. They need the essentials.kit permission node and the essentials.kit. Whatever you called it permission node. So they need those two or multiple ones depending on how many kits you want to give them. Now essentials.helpOp is a way for your players on the server to be able to send a message to moderators and admins, you know, if they need assistance or help, and they use the command simply by typing helpOp and then whatever message they want to type in. And only moderators and admins will see those messages, and it's just a way to report griefs or just you know, get assistance if they need it. So that's a pretty handy one to have. Now the next two, I'm sure you're all familiar with them, are mail, essentials.mail and essentials.mail.send. Now this allows players to send a mail in-game to other players on the server, and they do that by typing /mail send the name, so phunkeymonkeh, and then hello. And as you can see, it says mail sent. Now the person will get a note on their screen saying that you have 1 mail or 2 mail or 10 mails, whatever it may be, and to read them they do /mail read, and you can see the message is right here, phunkeymonkeh hello. Once they're done, they can do mail clear, and that will remove and empty their mailbox. It's kind of like using the /message command. Difference being is that you can use the mail command to send a message to a player who's not online at the time, which you cannot do with /message. So it's pretty handy to give them that too. Essentials.me allows a player to perform an action. It's not essential, it's just kind of a bit of fun, so you could do /me sneezes. And it'll come up on the screen saying phunkeymonkeh sneezes. So as I say, it's just a way of doing an action, just a bit of fun. I could do me breathes heavily, which isn't creepy at all, I'm sure you'd agree. But yeah, it's just a bit of fun, allows them to perform actions, and it's, you know, you might as well give it to them. Okay, the next one that we have is essentials.motd. I want to take a little break here because I want to show you something. I don't think I've gone over it in previous videos. MOTD is message of the day. And also you've got essentials.rules. Now these /motd and /rules allow your players to see the rules on the server and also the message on the server. And these are defined within these two text files here, which are within your essentials plugin folder. And they're just basic text files, and you can put whatever you want in them. Right now the default is something like welcome and then the player name, phunkeymonkeh, and it says type help for a list of commands, and it gives you a list of who's online, but you can add anything to this. So we'll just put in because we want everybody to see that when they join the server, and we'll edit the rules. Actually I'll leave the rules like this, but I want we'll just leave it, love thy monkey. Actually no, we will change love thy monkey to number 1. That should be rule number 1. and we'll put have fun as rule number 4. But you can make these whatever you want, guys. I'm just kind of messing around. And we'll do an essentials reload in the config. It's brought up an error because we haven't set up any jail files, but that's okay. It's not a problem. And when somebody types in /rules, okay, I didn't put a space, didn't put a new line in, but you get the idea. You can customize these rules to anything you like. So you've got love thy monkey there, which is a rule, guys. You do have to love me. And if they type in /motd, as you can see, it says welcome phunkeymonkeh, type help for a list of commands currently online, just me, and then bleh, whatever you put in underneath. But yeah, you can customize those 2 files, but they are 2 pretty important commands that you probably want to give your builders or users, motd and rules. Now the next 2, we've got essentials.msg and essentials.r. This allows people to private message people within game. You can type in /message phunkeymonkeh and then whatever message you want, hello, and the person in game gets that message on their screen just as you can see in front of you. The essentials.r is a reply command, and I can simply do /r hello to you too. So it's a reply command. It's an easier way of typing it in. Bear in mind though that /r command does get sent to the very last person that sent you a message. So be careful if you've got lots of people messaging you. You might use the /r command and it might go to the wrong person. Essentials.scene, pretty handy. Allows your users to see when a player was last online. So if I do /scene phunkeymonkeh, it says player phunkeymonkeh is online since 7 minutes 11 seconds ago, and that means that I'm online right now and I logged in 7 minutes and 11 seconds ago. If they're offline, it'll say that they're offline and how long ago they were last logged in. So it's pretty useful, especially if you've got a large server with lots of people on. Essentials.ping, it's kind of a tool to gauge your latency to the server, your ping or your lag to the server. Essentially, when you type in /ping and press enter, the time it takes for the server to reply with pong is essentially as I say, the latency between your computer and the server. The longer it takes to appear, the more lag you're going to experience. If you type in ping and it takes 10 seconds for pong to come back, either you've got a very laggy, slow internet connection, or the server's a bit laggy, one of the 2. But it's just a diagnostic tool. I see no reason why users can't have access to it, and it just helps them identify if they're experiencing lag. Okay, next 2, essentials.home, essentials.sethome. Now you need both of these commands, and I'm sure you've used them before. Set home allows a player to set a home. As you can see, it says home set, and the /home command allows your players then to go back to that location. They need both of them. It's no good being able to set a home but not then travel back to it. As you can see, I'm not op, so I can't break anything. But yeah, those 2 commands are pretty handy. Most people expect at least one home on a multiplayer server these days. Okay, and the last command to cover then for users, essentials.warp. I think we have one warp set up, /warp funky, I think it was. Yeah, there you go, on top of this tree, which we did quite a while back. Without that command, your players won't be able to travel to warps. Most servers use warps these days, so yeah, it's a good one to have. You're gonna want that, really. Okay, moving on. Moderators. Okay, the first 5 commands are all to do with banning. You've got essentials.ban and essentials.banIP. And those commands, I mean, they're self-explanatory, but you type in /ban username to ban a person. You type /ban IP and then the IP address to ban an IP address. Now, you also have, respectively, unban and unban IP, which do exactly what you'd think they do, except I don't know why Essentials have done it this way, but the commands are not unban and unban IP. They are, and I'm going to type them in for you on screen. Pardon. Oh, need to make myself a moderator, don't I? Pex user phunkeymonkeh group set moderator. Yeah, so going back to that, the commands are pardon and pardon IP. So bear that in mind. I don't know why they've done it that way. I don't know why they're just not unban and unban IP, but they are pardon and pardon IP. And they just allow you to ban and unban. Straightforward. Now the next one's important, and it's, your moderators are going to need this. It's essentials.ban.offline. Now, if you don't give your moderators that permission node, they will not be able to ban a player that's currently offline. I don't know why, but they need that permission node to do it. So make sure you give them that. Otherwise, it will say that that the person is not found. It will only allow you to ban people that are online without that permission node. So if you have somebody come on grief and then disconnect, and then a moderator tries to ban him later without that permission, they won't be able to. So make sure you give your mods that. The next two commands, clear inventory and clear inventory.other. Very straightforward. The command is /ci, and that allows you to empty your inventory. As you can see, I've got a few tools and some wool now. If I type in ci and enter, it empties my inventory. Straightforward, just an easy way to clear your inventory. Now the ci, you can also do /ci and then the username of somebody else, and it will clear another person's inventory. It's pretty good if you've got somebody who's been stealing or something and you want to remove any contraband from their inventory. You can use the /ci username command to do that. The next two commands, essentials.jail and toggle jails. Now we don't have any jails set up, but if we were to type in jails, it would bring up a list of any jails that we have, but we don't have any, so it doesn't do that. Toggle jail, or tjail as the command is, allows you to jail a user, and the command is /tjail space username, the jail name, which as I said we don't have any right now, and the time that you want to jail them for, which could be an hour, a week, a month, a year, whatever. So that's how you would jail somebody for a set period of time. The next two commands are, the next command, essentials.kick, does exactly what it says on the tin. Allows you to kick a player from a server. If I kick myself, there you go. phunkeymonkeh is kicked from the server. Doesn't ban them. They can come straight back on. It's just it can be used as a warning essentially. Essentials.mute. The format is the same as the jail. It's just /mute, and the full parameters are /mute space player name space the time you want them muted for. If you don't specify a time, they're muted indefinitely until you unmute them. So bear that in mind. If you don't put a time in, they'll be muted forever until you unmute them. Temp ban allows you to ban a player for a set amount of time. Again, the format is identical to muting. It's just temp ban space username and the amount of time you want them banned for. Weather. I'm sure you've all experienced rain in Minecraft. This allows your moderators to change the weather. The two commands are weather, storm, or sun. And you can also set a duration if you want to. But for example, if we do weather, storm, it starts raining. And again, if we do weather, sun, after a second it'll stop. There we go. So yeah, essentials.weather allows them to change the weather. Now the next command is all about teleporting. The next nodes, sorry, are all about teleporting. There's lots of different teleporting commands. There's TP, TPPOS, TP here, TPA, TP deny, TP toggle, TP override. There's a lot of different ones, so you're going to want to check the command reference in the description below and figure out which ones you want to use on your server. But for the purpose of this, I'm going to cover two of them, which is essentials.tp, which allows you to teleport one player to another player, and it's always the first player gets teleported to the second player. So just bear that in mind. The first player name that you enter gets teleported to the second player's location. The other teleport command is tppos, which allows you to teleport to actual coordinates, which is very handy, and the format is pretty simple: tppos space x space y space z, and you just put your coordinates in there, and it takes care of the rest. Now the next command is one you're going to want to restrict to admins or moderators. It's whois, because it shows some information that you're not really going to want public. That information is the health of a player, whether they have OP status, whether they have God mode, as you can see I do, what game mode they're in, creative or survival, their coordinates, if they have money, if you're using an economy plugin of sorts, their status, which would either be available or AFK, and also, more importantly, their IP address. This is handy for moderators because if they have somebody who's being a pest, they can use the whois command to find out their IP and actually ban the IP address. The last two then, we've got broadcast, pretty straightforward. Mod can type in broadcast and then their message, and it'll put it in different color so that it stands out. They can use it for announcements or to give instructions. Just allows their, whatever they're saying to stand out that little bit more. And the last one for moderators, invc. Invc allows you to view the inventory of any player on the server. If you type in /invc and the player's name, it will show you exactly what they've got in their inventory, which could be used for checking to see if somebody's stolen any items, seeing if somebody's been x-raying or something like that. It's pretty handy. Okay, so moving on to the admin groups. Now, as I briefly explained, the admins won't have that many permissions. And there's two reasons for this. One is because we're using inheritance, which I'm going to go over again in a moment. But secondly, because the admin group is generally your most trusted group. And they, generally speaking, have access to everything. So under the permissions here, we have a few different things just because I wanted to show you some examples. What we have is these permissions here with worldguard.*, essentials.*, worldedit.*, and permissions.manage.*. And it's this ** that gives them permission to any of, for example, the worldguard commands, or any of the essentials commands, any of the worldedit commands. If they've got ** after them, they can do absolutely any of those commands. Now theoretically, if we remove these and just leave that single asterisk, that gives them access to everything, and I mean absolutely everything. And that's generally how I set up my admin groups. I don't want my admin groups to be restricted, so I just give them a single asterisk, which allows them to use all and every command. And the good thing about that is if we add plugins in the future, we don't need to change the permissions for the admins. All we need to do is give them that asterisk, and we're pretty much set. Now, the last thing I wanted to cover for this video is inheritance and negative permission nodes. Or specifically, why you would want to use negative permission nodes. Now, just to briefly go over what inheritance is. As you can see here, we have our guest group. They don't inherit. There's no inheritance here. However, the user group does inherit from the guest group. And that basically means that they have access to all these permissions as well as the permissions in the guest group. And the same for moderators. They have all these permissions as well as the permissions from the user group, because they inherit from the users. And because the users inherit from the guests, they get all of these too. So it's a nice, easy way of not having to repeat permission nodes. For example, if users didn't have inheritance, then I would also need to add these permission nodes to the users in order for them to be able to use them. Now that in itself does present another problem. Let's say, for example, for whatever reason, we don't want our moderators to be able to use AFK. How do we go about removing that permission from them? Because we can't remove it from the moderator section because they don't have that permission. They are inheriting it from the users. but we can't remove it from the user section because then users won't be able to use it. That's where negative permission nodes come in. So what you do is you add a negative permission node, and it's very simple. You do pex group moderator add, and then the permission node in question with a negative or a minus symbol in front of it. So we are doing essentials.afk. When we reload this config file, you will now see that moderators have this negative node here. There's a negative symbol in front of it. And if I go in game and type in /afk now, I do not have access to that command. And that's the negative permission node at work. If I remove it, save the file, and do a reload, I now have access to the AFK command again. So that's why you would use negative nodes. Generally, they're only useful when you're using inheritance. It's the only time I can imagine you'd use them. But they are useful. Like, for example, say you have, let's say you have two toolkits. One called tools, which the users get to use, and one called funky, which the moderators get to use. But you don't want moderators to be able to use both of them. Then you could add a negative node for essentials.kit.tools to the moderator group. It's a little bit confusing, but you will get used to it, and that's essentially why you would use a negative node. That pretty much wraps up the permissions tutorials, guys. It was a two-part series, not too complicated, and I haven't covered everything by any means. What I'm going to be doing in future videos, as we add plugins, new plugins for the new tutorials, we will at the same time be adding the permissions, so I'll show you how to add those as well. But that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. Please, if you have any questions, I'll do my best to help you in the comments below. If you have, do all the usual good stuff, like, comment, favorite, that type of thing, and I'll see you next time.